Guys, Beerus is committing a sin after so long without sleep, and it will have dire consequences. Will Beerus be able to deal with his own evil? Well, let's talk about that. But before we begin, please like and subscribe to the channel, and of course become a member. Have you done all that? Then let's begin. The air on planet Kaioshin was heavy, charged with a sinister energy that made even the oldest gods tremble. The Supreme Kai, normally calm and wise, was apprehensive, his hands trembling. His eyes, always serene, were now filled with indescribable terror. Supreme Kai murmured, This can't be happening." The other Kaioshins from the east, west, north and south gathered around him, perplexed by his behavior. They had never seen him like this, not even when Majin Buu was released or when Beerus awakened in search of the Super Saiyan God. West Kaioshin asked, "Supreme Kai, what's happening?" He lifted his face, pale, sweating. Something terrible is approaching Earth, and all of this is Beerus's fault." His voice was a hoarse whisper, as if speaking louder might draw the attention of whatever terrified him. The other Kaioshins exchanged confused looks. North Kaioshin asked, "What do you mean Beerus's fault? Isn't he just sleeping like always?" The Supreme Kai shook his head violently and shouted, as if this were the worst possible news. "No, he hasn't slept since his last visit to Earth, and now he's coming." A deathly silence fell over them. East Kaioshin asked, "Who?" The Supreme Kai closed his eyes as if trying to control himself, but when he opened them again, the fear was even more intense. There's a reason the gods of destruction sleep. It's not just to keep them from destroying everything out of boredom. It's to keep you away. South Kaioshin pressed. "Keep you away? Who are you talking about?" The Supreme Kai took a deep breath, as if every word he was about to say was a curse. "The devourer of gods." The name echoed like thunder in the hall. The other Kaioshin recoiled, some with expressions of sheer horror, others as if they couldn't believe what they were hearing. West Kaioshin cried out in disbelief, That's just a legend!" Supreme Kai replied, "It doesn't! He exists, and whenever a god of destruction stays awake for too long, he senses it. He comes." East Kaioshin spoke up, "But Beerus is one of the most powerful gods of destruction. He can..." Supreme Kai interrupted. "Not even Beerus can face him. Not even Goku. No matter how much he loves to fight, no matter how much he masters Ultra Instinct, nothing can stop him." His eyes were now filled with tears, not of sadness, but of despair. "He's not like Beerus. Beerus destroys out of duty, out of balance. But he devours only for pleasure." The Kaioshins fell silent, the weight of the Supreme Kai's words sinking into their hearts. East Kaioshin asked, his voice almost fading, What can we do?" The Supreme Kai stared into the horizon as if he could see beyond dimensions, straight to Earth. "Nothing," he whispered. "Nothing. Except pray he doesn't find what he's looking for." And then, as if the universe wanted to prove its point, a wave of dark energy so dense it seemed to suffocate light itself spread across the cosmos. Something truly terrible was coming, and no one was prepared. The silence continued on planet Kaioshin, so dense it seemed to weigh down the shoulders of everyone present. But it was East Kaioshin who broke the silence with a voice still trembling but determined. East Kaioshin asked, "But what does he look like? I mean, if this creature really exists, if he really is the devourer of gods, what does he look like? What's his personality?" The Supreme Kai, still gazing at the horizon as if he saw beyond time and space, closed his eyes for a moment. An ancient, almost erased memory surfaced in his mind. When he spoke again, his voice carried an ancient gravity. He's just like Beerus, but at the same time, he's completely opposite. His form is feline, like Beerus's, a lean body, but wrapped in something wicked. His skin is a deep purple, so deep that from a distance it appears black as the void of space. Light avoids him, as if creation itself rejected him. On his head, he bears sacred Egyptian markings, not as adornment, but as a curse. They are arcane runes that move at times, as if they were alive. He wears clothing like Beerus's, but with the colors reversed. Black dominates and gold shines in the details like dead stars. The southern Kaioshin took a step back, shocked. A corrupted Beerus, an inverted reflection. Supreme Kai continued, his voice cracking. But the worst is his essence. while Beerus destroys out of duty, out of balance. He destroys for fun, for pleasure. He doesn't think, doesn't reflect, doesn't spare. He senses when the gods of destruction remain awake for too long. It's like a call, as if it were an inevitable cycle. The East Kaioshin took a deep breath, trying to reason through the terror. Then he had an idea, desperate perhaps, but it was all they had. Then we have to activate the divine law. We can summon the Daishinkan. He'll know what to do. The other Kaioshins looked at him with renewed hope, but the Supreme Kai shook his head, even more dejected. "I've already tried," the North Kaioshin said, startled. "What?" Supreme Kai spoke. "Immediately after sensing the first trace of that dark energy, I sent a divine message, begging for help. But," he swallowed hard, as if embarrassed by what he would say. "The Daishinkan replied that he cannot interfere at this time. He is in Zeno-sama's palace, playing games." South Kaioshin clenched his fists in disbelief. "Playing? While the universe can be devoured?" Supreme Kai, lowering his head, replied, "The Daishinkan can only leave the palace if Zeno-sama authorizes it. And right now, Zeno is playing games, childish games that have lasted for ages, and he still hasn't tired of them." West Kaioshin shouted, "So we are alone! Abandoned!" The Supreme Kai took a deep breath and tried to remain calm. "Not abandoned, just out of their reach, unless Zeno gets bored soon. Or this entity does something that directly affects Zeno Palace, we'll be on our own." East Kaioshin spoke, still trying to hold on to hope. "What about Whis? What about the other angels? What about the gods of destruction from the other universes?" Supreme Kai replied, "They know, but they don't dare act. They're all afraid of attracting the devourer's attention." East Kaioshin incredulously, "But that's cowardice!" Supreme Kai replied, "It's not cowardice, it's self-preservation. They know that not even an angel can defeat him, maybe not even Zeno, if he wanted to play fight with him." Everyone present felt a chill. It was then that the planet's sky went dark. A cosmic shadow covered part of the light emanating from the eternal heavens. The ground trembled, and for a second, just a second, everyone heard it. A sound, a deep purr coming from space, an almost feline sound, but filled with hunger. North Kaioshin paled. "Did you hear that?" Supreme Kai replied, "Yes, he already senses that Beerus has long been awake." West Kaioshin spoke, now whispering as if in a temple. "Then we have no choice." Supreme Kai nodded slowly. "We must warn Beerus and Goku. Even if they can't defeat him, perhaps they can restrain him. Or at least buy time, until Zeno-sama gets bored with his games." Eastern Kaioshin. "But what if he doesn't get bored in time?" The Supreme Kai looked directly at him. "Then it will be the end not just of Earth, but of all the gods, one by one." The sky over Kaioshin's planet grew increasingly dark. The silvery light that always illuminated that sacred world was swallowed by an oppressive darkness, so dense it seemed to absorb even time. The sacred trees withered, the ground trembled as if trying to escape something approaching, and the air had stopped. No breeze, no sound, only silence and fear. The Supreme Kai stood paralyzed, his eyes wide, his mouth agape. Even without seeing, he knew he had arrived. A rift opened in the sky, as if the very fabric of reality had been torn by invisible claws. From within, a figure shrouded in deep shadow emerged. His body seemed to suck in the light around him. The silhouette resembled Beerus's, lean, feline, with a regal bearing. But that was where the similarities ended. His eyes were bottomless wells. Egyptian runes glowed on his forehead and shoulders, moving as if with a will of their own. His clothing was a corrupted version of Beerus's suit, black as the void, with golden accents that pulsed like destruction. The Kaioshins stood motionless. Their legs wouldn't obey, their bodies refusing to move before this entity that carried ruin within. The North Kaioshin fell to his knees. The South Kaioshin froze, but his hand trembled. The West Kaioshin could barely breathe. The being took a step, and then another. Each step made the ground twist, as if his presence were a poison to that sacred world. His voice echoed like muffled thunder coming from all directions. "Where is Beerus?" The Supreme Kai, without hesitation, stepped forward. His face was pale, his eyes teary but steady. "On planet Earth! He is on planet Earth!" The West Kaioshin, his voice trembling. Why did you tell?" The Supreme Kai slowly turned to her, his eyes held more pain than guilt. Because delaying the inevitable is foolish, and contradicting your will is the doom of us all. The devourer didn't say a word, but inclined his head slightly, as if acknowledging the Supreme Kai's choice, but he raised his hand, long, slender fingers shrouded in dark purple energy. The evil god spoke, "I thank you for your wisdom." And then, before anyone could react, he extended his finger toward the West Kaioshin, Hakai. The sound that followed was that of an existence crumbling. The West Kaioshin screamed, but only for an instant. Her body shattered into particles of purple energy that dissipated like dust in the wind. The other Kaioshins recoiled in horror. South Kaioshin screamed furiously, "No!" Driven by instinct and fury, with his divine energy concentrated, he rushed at the devourer, launching an attack, but it was futile. The creature didn't move, it just stared. The divine energy slammed into its body and was absorbed as if it had fallen into a black hole. The evil god said, "You're weak." That was pathetic. Without even lifting a hand, the devourer caused an opening to appear before him, a swirling portal of darkness, wreathed in violet lightning. South Kaioshin tried to throw himself to stop it, but an invisible force threw him to the ground. South Kaioshin said, "We can't let him go!" The Supreme Kai simply watched. His face looked older, more lined with pain than ever before. The devourer paused for a second at the edge of the portal and looked over his shoulder directly at the Supreme Kai. "You did well. Not to delay my path is rare wisdom among deities." Then he stepped into the portal and disappeared. Silence followed. But it was no longer the same as before. It was a shattered silence, broken by the absence of one of his own. The West Kaioshin had ceased to exist, simply for trying to delay the evil god. The wounded South Kaioshin stared at the Supreme Kai with hatred and sadness. "You betrayed Beerus! You betrayed us all!" The Supreme Kai fell to his knees, exhausted. "I saved you, at least for now." The North Kaioshin, tears in his eyes, whispered, "And Earth." The Supreme Kai looked up at the sky to where the portal had closed. "Now, everything depends on them." The sky over planet Earth suddenly darkened, as if a cosmic curtain had been pulled over the planet. The sunlight disappeared, swallowed by dark clouds that spiraled over a single point in the sky. Beerus was sitting in front of a table laden with delicious food, but he put down the food, slowly stood up, and looked up at the sky. Beerus said, "You were taking your time." Beside him, Goku's eyes widened as he saw a shadowy figure float to the ground, surrounded by purple energy and an aura so oppressive that the air around him seemed denser. Goku said, "Hey Beerus, who is he? He looks just like you. Is he your long-lost brother?" the Saiyan asked, his eyes never leaving the newcomer. Beerus replied, his voice firm, "This isn't the time for explanations. Listen to me, Goku. I need your help." Goku's mouth fell open for a second. You're asking me for help?" Beerus didn't answer. He assumed a fighting stance. That was enough. Goku smiled, his heart racing. "This is going to be interesting." The devourer landed. His feet didn't even touch the ground, but the grass around him died with his presence. Then he decided to speak. "You took a while to fall asleep, Beerus. Now, you must pay the price." In an instant, the fight began. Goku lunged with a Kamehameha, Beerus with a blast of destructive energy, but the devourer was a living shadow. He dodged with minimal movements, counter-attacking with dark spheres that exploded soundlessly, only with absurd shockwaves. Goku activated Ultra Instinct. His silver eyes gleamed, and his body moved with divine grace. But the devourer seemed to anticipate every step. Beerus attempted to use his Hakai, but his opponent absorbed it and returned it as an amplified black wave. A blow struck Beerus in the abdomen, launching him against a distant mountain. Goku countered with a flurry of punches so fast they could barely be seen, but none of them connected. Evil God spoke, "You are no match for me." Beerus returned to the fight, his eyes determined, even in the face of imminent defeat. Beerus shouted, "Damn you!" But he was struck by a black Hakai. The energy enveloped him, slowly beginning to tear his body apart, cell by cell. The evil god spoke, "Goodbye, Beerus." Before his existence was erased, Beerus screamed with all he had left, "Goku, the button! Press the button!" Goku, still dazed, quickly pulled the small object from inside his uniform, Zeno-sama's button. Without hesitation, he pressed it. Reality shook. A blinding flash appeared. In a second, time seemed to stop. From the sky descended the two Zeno-samas. Beside them, with a serene yet powerful posture, stood the Daishinkan, the great priest. The devourer's eyes narrowed for the first time. He stopped the Hakai, letting Beerus fall to the ground, exhausted, still barely alive. Daishinkan bowed slightly to Zenos. "With your permission, Zeno-sama, I wish to face this entity, if I may." One of the Zenos nodded excitedly. "Yes, but if your fight is boring, we'll erase you too." The other Zeno laughed. "That's right, fun or destruction." Daishinkan smiled, though slightly tense. "Understood." Then he looked at the devourer and said, "It's time for you to rest. For now." The fight was brief, but devastating. Daishinkan moved like a specter, his attacks distorting space. The devourer god counterattacked with raw power, trying to swallow the universe around him. But Daishinkan wasn't fighting to win. He was sealing. Divine dimension! He touched the ground and a gigantic seal of light opened, enveloping the devourer in cosmic chains. Daishinkan spoke. "You will be banished to a waiting dimension, and you can only return if Beerus does not sleep for the next 30 years. The devourer screamed in fury, but was swallowed by a dimensional whirlpool, disappearing in a flash of purple. The sky returned to normal. The Zeno-samas clapped. "We enjoy the fight!" "You won't be erased, Daishinkan." Daishinkan sighed, slightly relieved. Goku, still panting, approached Beerus, who was lying down, looking up at the sky. "Beerus, are you okay?" Beerus turned his head with a small smile. "I've been better," Goku said. "That guy, the devourer. I want to face him again, and next time, I'll win." Beerus snorted. "You only think about fighting." Goku smiled. "If you need to sleep so he doesn't come back, then I'll stop you from sleeping. We'll train every day. You'll help me get stronger." Beerus's eyes widened, almost laughing. "You're crazy. You have no idea of the dangers." Goku said, "Maybe, but I never backed down from a fight, and now I have a new goal." And so, under Earth's clear sky, Goku stared determinedly at the horizon. He knew the devourer would return, and this time he would be ready. Guys, did you like the story? Do you want a sequel? Does this villain deserve a new video about him? So leave your like, become a member of the channel with a symbolic value, and of course, subscribe, and see you next time. Bye.